Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeChara coming to you live from downtown Flushing again for another awesome episode of how you can win at business. And tonight, I actually had an accounting thing that I'm going to be going through. That's right. I'm going to talk about why and how you should convert your LLC into an S-Corp. And I actually put it up there as the title was how and why. But before I go into how, I'm going to talk about why. Because why would you care about how if you don't even know why? But what I learned, what I've learned from my marketing friends, is that when you use a title and there's a couple of key words like how or the top, the best. When you post anything on Facebook, your blog, and it's a proven fact. So what I try to do, if you look at my YouTube channel, and you'll see all the different titles, they're almost all how to. And the only reason why is because I can't creatively figure out how to start, how to come up with one of the other titles, because they're not all how to. But the lesson that I'm trying to convey here, folks, is that business is complicated. I'm going to talk tonight a little bit about my ice cream man adventures and how I thought it was simple. And before I get into that, what I'd like to do is introduce myself. If you don't know me and you're watching, give us a hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. Only because I've learned that then you get to see any of the posts and the threads, I guess, that has to do with tonight's amazing, amazing episode. And where was I? So if you don't know me, I am a CPA serial entrepreneur that got bored with just doing accounting, bookkeeping, and tax returns. Now, I still do that stuff, and it's not like I don't enjoy it. That's my business, that's my core business. And I've learned that, you stick with what you're good at. And after 35 years, I think I got the bookkeeping and tax planning and preparation stuff down. But what I learned through things like Napoleon Hill, the science of getting rich, is that business isn't all about numbers. It has to do with intention and direction and applying the knowledge and trying to tap into other people's knowledge via things like a mastermind or having a coach. So in these lives, and actually I'm pretty proud of myself because I'm mapping out a whole year's worth of stuff that I'm doing. So everything's pretty much going to be planned out as far as what I'm going to be covering. Like every week I might do 2 interviews. I might do 2 trainings on taxes, creative tax strategies, and just mix it up. Maybe 1 or 2 nights we'll do something on mindset and principles. But these are all the things that really, the ingredients that go into running a business. It's not just one thing. It's a lot of things, which makes it extremely complicated and confusing, and it's not getting any easier. So, and it'll never be easy. And, this subject keeps coming up for some reason. It'll never be easy. It's not designed to be easy. But what somebody like I can do for you is try to make it simple. I can break it down to the lowest common denominator about these are the things that you need to have a business. For instance, you need to have a product or service that somebody is actually going to pay you for. I've seen too many times people start businesses with an idea, and it might even be an idea about something that is desperately needed, and people still won't buy it. Because people don't just buy stuff they need, they buy stuff they want. And that's why it was so hard for me to sell life insurance. You know, everybody pretty much should have life insurance if you have, I mean, just at least burial insurance. But why is life insurance so hard to sell? Well, people have to go on their vacation, they got to pay for the new car, you know, their daughter's wedding. There's all these other things that take priority. And it has nothing to do with logic. Which is probably why I never really understood marketing. And what I had to do was over the last 8 years, I immersed myself, you know, around marketing people, writers, uh, people in business, speakers, people that had to have a message, a clear message about what they were doing, how they were doing it, why they were doing it. You know, that's another thing they didn't teach me in CPA school about, you know, you got to have a why. It's not, it can be about making money, but if that's the only why, you know, what happens when you get all the money? Is that it? Are you going to keep going and get more money? It's much easier and much more enjoyable to run a business that you love doing. And today I got to interview the guy, Jack Foreman, who is the president of bicoastalproductions.com. And it was really interesting because what the guy does is he books bands, he books acts all over the world, some pretty big ones too, and comedians. And, you know, with COVID, it was like all of a sudden, that's it. No business. So they had to regroup. You know, imagine you're a band, you're on tour, and all of a sudden you're not on tour. Now you're not counting your money. You're like trying to figure out how are you going to pay for all your expenses. And, you know, it was a good interview because despite what he had and what we all had to go through, but, you know, people like me, I didn't go from revenue from here down to zero. We're negative, like overnight. That's what, like my friend Larry Broughton had to go through. His hotels, restaurants, and people like Mr. Foreman. And what he, you know, his attitude was basically that this is a chance to become creative, and they're pivoting. And I would highly recommend watching the interview if you go to my YouTube channel. And it was a good interview. And not only that, he gave us some insight as to what some of the future technology is going to be as far as entertainment. You know, it's, I guess we're heading towards a different kind of world. And I don't know if it's, hopefully it'll go back to, you know, semi the way it was before, because I sort of like that world. I was used to it. And I don't know about you, but what I'd like to do now is start the PowerPoint, and it's on the last slide. So I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to share the whole thing again. Here we go. And if I didn't say, and I think I did, the show is called How You Can Win a Business. And this is going to be a nice, short and sweet presentation because I only have about 16 minutes. And I just want to change my little banner here because I'd like to connect with you. If what I'm doing here, what I talk about resonates with you, if you have some questions, uh, if you do have questions for me on this subject, you can post them in the chat box, and I guarantee that I will respond. I respond to all of them. And if you want to connect with me, like I said, all you got to do is go to timewithjoe.com and I will talk to you. I'll chat for free, 15, 20 minutes about your business, about ways that I might be able to help steer you in the right direction with whatever. Tonight's topic is on converting your LLC into an S-Corp, and I'm going to tell you why and how you can do that. But if you want to book a chat with me just to meet with me, that's not a good forum. If you want to chat with me and you're not in my group, Bedrock Business Builders, you should join my group. And I know because I'm on like 4 or 5 different channels here. I'm on YouTube. If you're not on my YouTube channel, you should subscribe because that's where all of these trainings and interviews and stuff go. I put them up on my YouTube channel. So I actually got a nice little system going on here. And like I said, I'm pretty proud of myself because, it wasn't like this 7 months ago. I could never do Facebook Lives like this every night. And I had some friends, some people that coached me, Jenny Wright, Haley Gray, other people that have been telling me I got to do this for a long time, and I didn't. But tonight, what I'm going to do is we are going to go through a couple of quotes to start out with, because actually a friend of mine, Craig Duswalt, did this training last week, and he started with quotes. And I said, that's a pretty cool way to start the show. I'm going to do that. So this was all my idea. Craig had nothing to do with it. He actually stole it from me. So I saw him doing it, and it reminded me that I told him he should do this. So if you're following me, this was a quote by my good friend Aristotle, who said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." And that's what my girlfriend keeps trying to tell me. Only she says it in a different way. It's more about making the bed right and brushing my teeth right after I wake up. And so I'm working on that. I'm working on excellence. But this is my other quote, which I like a little more because it's Vince Lombardi, and he just says, winning is a habit. I don't want to hear about what I got to repeatedly do every day. Okay, I'm sorry, honey. But if you just put it to me like Vince did, and he was a world champion, maybe I'll respond a little bit better. So, let's just think about that for a little while. Anyway, so now, like I said, tonight's training, we're going to talk about why and how. Like I said, how it's only a marketing gimmick. I only put how in there to get your attention so that you would watch this Facebook Live. And don't get upset with me if if it worked. This was, it's the way our crazy brains work. So I'm going to talk about why and how you should convert your LLC into an S-Corp. And, here's the thing. And this is another quote, but it's something that I love, and I tie it into being a business owner. This was in a book that I read by, I think I was supposed to give him credit here, and I didn't. It's Dr. M. Peck, who wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled. So I hope I'm not breaking any kind of copyright rules here. But basically what he said, it was like the first paragraph, and it went like this: life is tough. Once you could accept that fact, you can enjoy it. Well, I agree with that, but being in business makes it even tougher, folks. So if we start out behind the eight ball with life, and now you just made it 100 times easier. I mean, harder. And I thought it was easy because my story is before I graduated from college, I needed entrepreneurial experience. I mean, real business experience. I leased an ice cream truck. I drove it. It was the summer before my last semester of graduating college, and I made money. And I proved that I was a legitimate entrepreneur until about 6 months into my accounting career, I got this tax warrant sent to me by New York State, and it rocked my world. It rocked because I thought my career was over. Literally for 3 days and nights, I had anxiety. I didn't sleep. I didn't know what the heck I did wrong. And what it was it was a simple form. When I formed the entity and I leased a truck, I was supposed to file sales tax returns. And I didn't know that I was answering to the government now. And luckily for me, I didn't get arrested. I actually went on to become a CPA, fairly successful career, but I never forgot that because it showed me that it is not that easy. And it turns out that this is normal. It turns out, I thought being in business was easy. Maybe I would have went and got a job instead of being an entrepreneur. But it turns out, according to Forbes, 8 out of 10 businesses fail. And I don't even think that's correct. Tony Robbins said if given enough time, they're all going to fail. Unless you're like IBM or Apple Computer. And sometimes even those people go out of business. But, our world, my world, is really the solopreneurs, the micro businesses. And it's not easy. So when you set up a new business, it is complicated and it's easy. It's easy to make the wrong decisions. It's easy to make the wrong decisions in life. But when you get into business and you don't know what you don't know, how do you know that a lot of times you're not making the wrong decision, you're just not making a decision because you don't know. And it happens all the time that when somebody starts a business, they start off with the wrong type of entity. And why? The thing is that there's really only three main types of entities. So how could so many people possibly have the wrong entity? Because this is what we have, folks. You have the sole proprietor, which is what we all are when we first start a business. Okay, we're sole proprietors by default. The next option is a corporation, where you can become an S-Corp, which is just another form of a corporation. But a corporation is a separate legal entity. And then last but not least, we have the LLC, limited liability company. So why, if there's only three, why are the bulk of businesses sole proprietors? And why is being a sole proprietor so bad? And why am I bringing this up? Because I'm supposed to be talking about LLCs. Well, I'm going to get to that in a second. But out of 30 million businesses, this is a fact, folks. Out of 30 million businesses, 25 million are sole proprietors. About 4 million are corporations, and there's about 1 million LLCs out there because LLCs had a slow start. They're not as new as, everybody's been a sole proprietor, from the beginning of time. Corporations, I don't know when that started. I don't even care. I know S-Corp started in like 1958, and LLCs only started about 20 years ago. So if so many people are sole proprietors, and the only reason I could think of is that because it's so confusing, they don't make a choice, but they would if they understood that they have a high risk of being audited. Sole proprietors pay 15% tax on your net profit. That's your Social Security taxes. You have no legal protection, and sole proprietors get no respect. And sole proprietors are reporting their business income and expenses on their personal return. So that's why you're a target. Okay, you're a target. And it's not a good way to do business. It's not even like, oh, that's not, it's a terrible way to do business. Now, unfortunately, the people that went out and made a decision to not be a sole proprietor and became LLCs by default are sole proprietors. Again, you get the high risk of being audited, 15% tax on Social Security. You have no legal protection, and you get no respect because the business world just doesn't look at you as a serious business owner. Now, you're going to be a sole proprietor unless you made an election on this form, 8832. Now, this form is supposed to be filed with the IRS 75 days after you create your entity. So the IRS is saying, okay, you're an LLC. If we don't hear from you, you're a sole proprietor. If you got more than one person, you're a partnership. Unless you tell them, no, I want to be taxed as a corporation. And if you do that, then you can take another step and become an S-Corp, which that's another form. But we're talking about converting your LLC into an S-Corp. So how do you do that? Okay, if you didn't do it within the 75 days, they have, and this is just page 2, I'm just showing it's a very simple election form. I wouldn't advise you to do this yourself, but if you want it, it's a very simple form. But if you do it wrong or you don't do it, look at this. They even, because this happens so much, they made a late election relief part of the form. How many forms have it on there? Oh, by the way, if you're filing this late, this is how you get out of it. So this is what the relief is. So if you're an LLC and you're freaking out now because I told you that you're a sole proprietor, don't worry. You might be able to fix it, especially if you haven't filed your return yet. And that's who I'm talking to tonight. If you really haven't filed your returns yet, you have a great opportunity to fix it. Now, here is the late election relief, and this is how brilliant the IRS is. The first exception is if you didn't file the form within the 75 days. Well, then why do they even make it 75 days? That's beyond me. So they're saying, oh, we said it's 75, but if it's 90, if you just fill out this part of the form, we'll let you go. So that's the IRS. I have to deal with them. Now, number 2 is a little bit more confusing, and it applies to only a couple of different situations. Let's say you set up your LLC in 2019. or even 2018, and for whatever reason you haven't filed yet, you can go back now and elect to be treated as an S-Corp. If you filed as a sole proprietor, you're out of luck. Okay, it's as long as you either haven't filed, or if you filed and you thought you were an S-Corp, but you weren't. Because that's happened. I've had clients tell me, they were an S-Corp, and it turned out they weren't. But you can still get relief. As long as, now get this, it's been less than 3 years and 6 months. So this tells me how prevalent this is, where people created LLCs and realized after the fact that it doesn't do them any good on their taxes. So, this was, I think, appropriate, being that July 15th we're coming up on a tax deadline. And if you haven't filed and you have an LLC, contact me. I will walk you through. You don't have to hire me. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do, where you can get the verbiage, because the IRS actually gives that to you. And this is what I just explained to you. Now, like I said, every time, if you don't take action, if you've learned anything here tonight, it was useless. Because you got to take action. And one of the ways you can take action is by connecting with me. And there's 2 ways you can do that right now. You can go to timewithjoe.com and book a free chat with me, or you can actually go to this site, How You Can Win at Business, which I am doing a free webinar. This is something I'm doing every month. I did one last month. I skipped this month, but next month in July, it'll be July 20th. So I hope you can join me for that. Over and out. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. God bless and good night. Thank you.